Lord Inglewood, your committee have been considering the future of investigative journalism. What prompted your inquiry and who did you hear from?
Well, we think there were two things that seemed to come together. The first was that we've just been seeing unraveling in front of us the biggest media political scandal of a generation. And at the same time, we're at the point, technologically, of a revolution. And the result of that is going to be that we think that the way the press and the media more generally will be operating in the relatively short future may be very different from the way it is now. And so what we were anxious to do in this inquiry was to try to draw the two together so that whatever conclusions are reached in response to the hacking scandal, the system will bear in mind what is likely to be the reality of the years to come and not was the case when a lot of the problems arose.
One of the things your report recommends is formalised guidelines from the Crown Prosecution Service and the Director of Public Prosecutions for journalist and news publications. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Well, it was explained to us by the Secretary of State, Jeremy Hunt, that take, for example, the Daily Telegraph exposing of the MP's expenses scandal, that the law almost certainly was broken in doing that. But at the same time, it was inconceivable that anybody would be prosecuted for having done it, because what emerged was in the public interest. Now, that is a particular example of the fact that whatever the law may be, there may be, on occasions, an overriding public interest in those involved in investigative journalism breaking it. Now, that can't be just random. And so what we are recommending is that a series of guidelines should be developed by the prosecuting authorities and then made public so that anybody involved with investigative journalism would know the circumstances when they might apply.
And what were your committee's other key findings?
We range quite widely. We concluded that it was appropriate for investigative journalists, when they are embarking on their investigations, to leave behind a very clear audit trail internally with their editors as to what was going on, so that in the event of there being some problems later, of the kind we've just described about, for example, breaking the law, it would be absolutely clear to everybody who was looking into it and who was involved precisely what had been decided, when and by whom, and that would enable the regulator and the legal authorities to have a clearer picture of what had been going on. In addition to that, we're concerned that the financial state, particularly the press, is such that investigative journalism, which is both expensive and is by no means something which will produce any story at all, shouldn't simply be set on one side for financial reasons. And we recommend a continuation of the VAT exemption for newspapers, and wondered too whether or not there were maybe some mileage in both philanthropy in general supporting investigative journalism, happens in America, and whether charitable organizations might play a part, a greater part than they have up till now in this country, because we think there are problems in that. We're not saying this must happen, but we think it is something that should be looked into carefully.
And what will happen next in relation to your inquiry and report?
Well, as I'm sure you know, there's a whole range of inquiries, from Lord Levison's inquiry through to the forthcoming communications bill, which is proposed at the end of this Parliament. And what we hope we've done with this piece of work, as indeed with the other bits of work we're conducting at present, is that we're going to be able to provide a contribution for the government into its thinking into that, and at the same time help the members of Parliament, both in the House of Lords and House of Commons, in their response to it.